Well, an experience that I think is very powerful and I'd really like to share with you and with others is that as the Bishop of Washington at Washington National Cathedral, it is a center for great services, especially services that are for the nation. And so we've had 2 presidential funerals here. And although they are huge and they take an enormous amount of preparation, they really are family affairs. The family, the first family really defines how they want the service and who they want involved. And so when it came time to make the decision about who they wanted to represent the Muslim community in the United States, Imam Magid was selected. And that wasn't a selection just because he would be window dressing. It was a selection because he's, number one, he's very well known here, but he also speaks for a large percentage of Muslims in this country. And he's also seen as a bearer of good news and a worker for peace and also inclusion. And so he came not just to be a part of the procession. He was involved directly in the service, and that was for both, you know, the funeral for Ronald Reagan, President Reagan, but also for President Ford. And whenever we have a great service here at the cathedral that impacts the nation and its conscience or its life, you know, who is asked to be here but Imam Magid? And again, it's not window dressing. It's because of his credibility, it's because of his friendship, because of his willingness to work hard with his interfaith partners, and his connection with the White House. And that is a powerful, powerful example of the Muslim voice in this country today as it impacts our policy both domestically and in terms of our foreign policy. People need to understand that. Well, I think one of the great sadnesses is that many of us, broadly speaking, in the Christian community, as I speak for the Christian community, have been guilty of the crime of silence. In other words, we have not really stood shoulder to shoulder, and we have not challenged that kind of behavior, which continues to demean the image of Muslims in this country, and also which gives rise by that silence or that vacuum to allow this kind of really not only negative but deadly behavior to continue to grow in this country, but also in the West, but in this country in particular. And you're absolutely right. The role and place of Muslims in this country today is worse than it was prior to 9/11. And all you have to do is talk to anybody who is a leader of the Muslim community in this country, who has voice, and they'll tell you the same thing. So, you know, what we have to do is find ways to work together. And we cannot be silent, and we have to challenge that whenever the ugliness of that raises its head. And so I think where we have to be, and Imam Magid and I have talked about this a lot, we have to be coexistent voices together, sharing with the American people that, you know, we may dress differently, we may pray differently, we worship the same God. We believe in the same concepts of compassion and compassionate care for all of God's people. And we seek a road that's really focused on peaceful coexistence and respect for the other. And if we cannot do that together, although Imam Magid and I and many others can do that, we're going to allow that vacuum to grow. And when that vacuum grows, as you know, it's going to be filled with other voices. And right now those voices are strident. It's an industry of what I call an industry of destruction. And it's not helpful in a country that really lays itself open to claim the common good of the Commonwealth. I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to become far more cogent when it comes to understanding Islam in all of its many, it is a prism. And so we have to be able to understand it, and we have to understand our own religion. So we deal with our illiteracies here. That's number one, and it's really critical. And if we don't do that, then it gives us rise and cause to demean one another and disrespect one another, or to create in our own minds an image of the other which meets with our own approval, which is defining God to make God like who we are. But the other thing is, I reminded of when I was in San Diego, just after 9/11, and there were attacks against Muslim families and individuals right after 9/11. And the Interfaith Conference in San Diego, one of the mosques had been defaced, badly defaced. And so I will never forget it. Christians, Jews, and Muslims made this huge circle, held hands, a lot of people, and just made this gigantic circle around this mosque, holding hands, praying in their own language and in their own way, and then made a statement to the community through the press that we will not tolerate that kind of behavior, because if you demean and defame Muslims in this city, you demean and defame those of us who are also people of God, who share the same journey. And I will never forget that day, because people were really off the wall. And, you know, San Diego's a Navy town. A lot of ships, a lot of submarines, a lot of folks. And it's really important to remember, and I remember that as if it was just yesterday. Symbolic, yeah, but also a profound statement to the press that we're not going to tolerate that kind of behavior. No one has the right to defame, deface, destroy another's property.